The magnificent sounds there of St. Vincent on Double J. And I'm very excited. I have a very special guest in the studio. Her name is Annie Clark, otherwise known as St. Vincent. She recently released her latest album. It's self-titled. It's her fourth, and it's launching her pretty much into the stratosphere of certified musical superstar. She's recently performed at the closing episode of Saturday Night Live, an incredible feat, filled in as a singer for Nirvana, and is blowing audiences away with her live shows that kick off tomorrow night in Melbourne. Welcome to the studio. Annie, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, let's talk about Saturday Night Live. To get that honour is extraordinary, and it happened. How do you feel once it's happened?
Yeah, I sort of thought that I would wake up the next morning and feel like a totally different person because it was such a dream come true. I've been watching that show since I was a kid, and it informed my ideas about comedy. And I saw so many bands growing up on that show that just changed my life. And so I thought I would kind of like feel like a prince or a princess the next day. But I woke up and I flew economy here to like a peasant. So yeah, all good.
Nothing like that to bring you back down to earth, is it really?
Yeah.
Goodness me. And also the Nirvana thing in the Hall of Fame. How does something like that come about?
That was a real honor. Obviously, I wish, like everyone does, that Kurt was still around and we could just go see Nirvana play, the real Nirvana. But since that's not a reality, they asked me and a couple of other lovely ladies to front them at their Rock and Roll Induction Hall of Fame ceremony. And I felt just incredibly privileged, and I just wanted to do right by their legacy.
Yeah, I did read that you were 9 when they were your heroes.
Absolutely. Nevermind came out when I was 9, and it changed my life.
Yeah, this wasn't a case of just being called up and going, I like them, but I'd never loved them. You actually loved the band.
Oh, it was a sea change. It was a massive, massive sea change in culture and in music. Something I don't think that we've quite seen the likes of since. And the other thing that I think gets lost in the sort of history of Nirvana is, they came up in Olympia, Washington. That was an incredibly, feminist, queer, freak scene. They were real punks and outsiders, and they just happened to connect with millions and millions of people, but they never strayed from their ideals.
How does it feel when they give you the call at something like that? And you're at home or you're out and someone says, hey, do you want to go on Saturday Night Live? Do you want to sing with Nirvana? Do you what does that actually feel like?
It feels crazy. It feels like you are the actor in a drama that is your life, and you're sort of looking out from a bird's eye view. It's sort of, maybe that's called disassociating, and maybe I have a problem.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but it definitely, I wish that I could, it's almost like I'm enjoying it for the little 12-year-old kid who wanted nothing more in the world than to be playing music. Like, I'm enjoying it for her.
Yeah. Well deserved as well. You've certainly earned it, and you've done some pretty incredible things so far, including being called up by the likes of David Byrne and collaborating with him. I want to talk to you about that before we talk about the new album, which is magnificent. How did that come about? Often these things are just so out of the blue. You've obviously worked with him.
Yes, David and I put out a record called Love This Giant in 2012, and then we were here for the Sydney Festival last year with a massive brass band. It happened like everything else in my life seems to happen, that intersection of luck and work. I met David at a charity event called Dark Was the Night, and he came up to me and told me that he thought that my music videos were really creepy. And I took that as a big compliment coming from him. And then we saw each other the next night at yet another AIDS charity event. This time for a place called Housing Works, where Bjork and the Dirty Projectors were doing a night of music. And long story short, the Housing Works people approached us and asked if we would like to do a similar night of music and raise some money. So we started writing, and 20 minutes became 40 minutes of music, became a record, and a year and a half tour.
Brilliant stuff. The new album is self-titled. You've described it as a funeral party album. What does that mean?
a party record you could play at a funeral. I was just thinking, it had to have these big grooves that would be inviting to people. I think there's something so communal about rhythm and the way that it brings people together. But I also wanted to make sure it had a lot of pathos and heart, and depth to it emotionally.
As a musician, how do you create? How does it come to you? Is it an easy process or is it a difficult process?
Well, it's gotten easier in the sense that I trust my instincts and have just grown and intuitively. But it's always like I'm from the Nick Cave school of songwriting, where you go to work every day and 10 to 7.
He did say that, didn't he? 10 to 7, treat it like a job.
It is a job.
And then you force something out eventually, even if you haven't been productive. Is that how it works for
Yeah,
you?
that's true. That's true. It also is an interesting, maybe this goes back to the disassociating thing, but you kind of have to trust, even if you aren't feeling it in the moment, that when you go back to it, you will have created something. It's this kind of like, I imagine what sculpting is, just etching something out of stone day after day, minutia by minutia.
Yeah. Excellent. And you've had music in your blood your entire life, pretty much. I didn't realise your uncle and his Tuck and Paddy.
Mm-hmm.
You were the tour manager at a very young age, maybe you were 16 or 17, and you saw it from the other side. Was that the point when you decided, I'm going to get into music, or did you still not have an idea at that point?
From the second I started playing guitar when I was 12, I wanted to be a musician, and probably before that. But that's not the kind of thing you just go around saying willy-nilly, because if it doesn't happen, then you're a failure. So it was something I think
you've done all right.
Okay, thank you. I don't know.
Well,
you and my shrink can talk. No, but they could tell. I think as art, like as an artist now, I'm looking at my nieces and nephews and going, okay, which one of you am I going to apprentice? We've got to make it a triptych.
Can you see it? In any of them?
I actually have my hopes pinned on one of my nieces, who is I mean this so affectionately, but she's such a freak. I love her. Oh, she's a freak.
Does it take having a little bit of freak in you to make it in the music world, do you think?
I mean, I think so. I don't know. I've been thinking about this a lot. It's like, there are so many people you could look up to in the world. And, that's, I would think, one of the reasons why I was such a fan of Nirvana is like they were speaking to the kind of isolation and otherness that I felt. And I think to go forth in my life and to be some kind of a hero to the others it just feels like a gift,
Let's go back to talking about the album. And you've said you are quite literal in your songwriting. And one of the songs, Rattlesnake, is actually an actual story. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so I went out to West Texas. I'm from Dallas, which is like 10 hours east. You guys know about that. Cities being very, very far away from each other here. And I was visiting my friend's cattle ranch, and I was taking a walk around the property alone. No cell service, just very like one with nature kind of thing. And I took my clothes off to kind of amplify it. And then so I'm walking, and I it could have been 30 minutes into the walk, or it could have been 3 hours. I don't know. But I heard a sound, and I kind of stopped, and I thought, oh, maybe that's the wind. But then I realized that if it had been the wind, I would have felt it, on every part of my body. And then I kind of turned my head, and I see that there's a rattlesnake not 5 feet from me. So I took off running naked back to the house.
Was anyone back at the house, or did you have the freedom to run naked and screaming?
I was running naked and screaming through the wilderness. And it sounds like I liked it, and I liked it as the start of an album because it felt like a creation myth, but it's a creation myth for a new century.
I hope you had a drink afterwards to calm the nerves.
I always do.
Goodness me, that's an incredible story. We should hear that song right now, but do stick around because I would like to ask you a couple of questions that have been sent in from our listeners. Nothing too prying, obviously. They're very decent here
Oh,
at Double J.
sure.
Thank you so much. Annie Clark, St. Vincent. This is Rattlesnake. St. Vincent on Double J, and that song Rattlesnake from her latest, her self-titled record. And Annie Clark is in the studio with us right now, listening away to your own songs. And how does it feel when you listen back?
Well, every song that I record is sort of like it's the starting point for it is in the studio, and then it gets really, really lived in live. So I'm not really so much critically listening as noticing, oh, okay, wow, this song has a lot of dust on the floor now, that we've been, playing it for 3 months for people.
So tell us about the live show then. Who will be joining you? Is it your regular group that we've seen recently on TV? And what will you be performing?
Yes, it's my live band, which is a great cast of characters. Matt Johnson, who played on Jeff Buckley's Grace, which is a classic record, and Daniel Mintzeris, who's played with Marianne Faithfull, and Toko Yasuda, who was in Blonde Redhead. So it's an all-star
Brilliant.
crew, for sure, a very talented group. And the show is kind of a bizarre fever dream. I speak a lot in the second person as a means of trying to get at this idea of unique universality.
Explain that unique universality. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean in that everybody has somewhat of a similar experience in life. There are a few things you can sort of count on. And if you start telling people about themselves, it also relies on this premise that people like to hear about themselves. And which ties into the kind of digital witness theme. We live in a world where very much, if you like this, you might like that kind of, and in some ways are living in a little bit of a feedback loop, a personal feedback loop.
It's almost like we're being fed everything we want.
Yeah, exactly.
In that sense, like we give. It's like if you like this, you like that, but you don't really hear anything you don't like, which means you kind of lose your perspective on what's good and what's not.
Yeah, that's an interest. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you sort of your yesterday predicts your tomorrow.
I don't. I'm going into an existential vortex right now. Oh, goodness me. My mind just went in a loop when you said that.
So anyway, with that in mind, I wanted to get up and say something that wasn't just the typical, hi, Sydney, it's so great to be here. How are you guys feeling tonight? Because that feels like hopelessly corny at this point. And I wanted to try to get at this, like, different ways that we can really connect in real time. And one of those ways is, when I speak to people, I tell them about themselves. And it's like you can't really tell if I'm telling you something incredibly personal about myself, or if I said that your nickname was this and it really was that, and then all of a sudden we're like so bonded and so connected. So that's the talking part of it, which is minimal. I don't know why I focused on that so much, but then the show itself, is somewhat choreographed. I'm doing my bastardized Pina Bausch movement.
Great.
And
that's the magnificent sort of exaggerated movements that you do, the stylized sort of dance moves while playing, which I think is quite skillful, to be honest.
Yes.
I can't, speak and type at the same time, which means I'm bad at my job, but you do an incredible job with, guitar and movement and all of that. It's quite impressive.
Well, thank you. I was just trying to figure out ways to encourage like a real experience to happen. It wasn't enough to just get up there and play some songs. It seemed like, in this day and age, especially when, again, we get everything that we want it's at our fingertips. Like how can we elevate this? How can we all go someplace kind of bizarre, but also really beautiful together?
Do you feel like you've achieved it, or you're achieving it on the road at the moment? Does it feel like it's coming naturally and the audience are responding?
Yeah, I mean, we've just had a wonderful tour of Europe and then a wonderful sold-out tour of the States. And so I'm really excited to do it all here at the Opera House.
Can't wait to see it. It should be wonderful. I have questions now from the audience. Are you prepared for this, Annie? Is this okay with you?
I think I am.
Okay. Our audience are to be trusted, by the way. First one here. This one comes from Michael Dorian, who connected with us on Facebook. Seeing as she has arguably the coolest hair in music right now, I'd love to know, Annie, who your hair idol is.
Well, my hair idol, I don't know that I have a modern day hair idol. I have a style idol, which is Albert Einstein, who would just pick a uniform and stick to it so he could use his brain space for other things besides clothing. But I originally decided to dye my hair because I was watching this show. I think there's an Australian version of it, The Bachelor.
Oh yes, we do have our own version. Yes,
and it's really funny because in the States right now, or at least at the time I was watching The Bachelor religiously, there's a big debate on about marriage equality and all of that, and one side of it was going, well, marriage, the sanctity of marriage and this and that and the other. And I'm like, wait, but there's a game show about like so winning the affection. So tell me about the sanctity of marriage there. Also, I don't know why anyone would want to invite the state into your affairs, but that is beside the point. This is not about my personal views on marriage, but it's instead about hair. So, so I was watching The Bachelor, and there was this girl named Sarah who had one arm and was very lovely and went on a date with the hunk, and she had a terrible fear of heights, which I understand. And her test or her date was that she got strapped to the hunk and then they dropped them off the side of a building.
No.
Yeah. And I was like, in one way, I was really like horrified by it, but on another way, I was really impressed with her.
She wanted that rose.
Courage.
She wanted that rose.
Yeah.
And
she had blonde hair.
She had blonde hair. And she is your hair inspiration.
Yeah.
Because she had the courage and the hair.
Yeah.
That's magnificent. Thank you. That's good. I think our listener will be very happy with that. And final question, Drew on Twitter has asked, can you ask St. Vincent about her Harmony H17 Bobcat?
Yes.
Where you got it, why you prefer it, you're one impressive guitarist.
Thank you very much. I have 3 of them. The first one I got at the Dallas Guitar Show with my mom. We were walking around, and I think we were one of 3 women at the whole guitar show. Lots of guys in those kind of Tommy Bahama shirts that have like flames and pool balls on them, billiard balls, like that kind of thing. And like Guy Fieri hair, like that was the kind of the vibe there. But I bought one of them there and had some work done to it. And then I bought another one, I want to say in New York at Rivington Guitars, which is a great little guitar shop in the East Village where I live. And then I picked another one up somewhere. I own 3, so one came from somewhere else.
Excellent. Thank you. That's from Drew on Twitter. We have to wind this up, unfortunately, because we're running out of time, but it's been an absolute pleasure having your company in the studio today, Annie. I just want to say you've shown some sweet skills with a football or a soccer ball recently on, was it Rookie Magazine, the website? I had no idea you were so skilled.
Well, okay. So Rookie Magazine, awesome magazine for young girls and boys, asked me to do a how-to video, and they kind of said, well, everybody knows you play music, so why don't you do something else? And I had to think of something else that I could do, and I honestly couldn't. I was like, okay, I can show you how to, like, here's the hangover cure. Like, nope, that's not good. Here's how you can, whatever, balance a checkbook. I don't know. But I had to think back to what I did before I played music and before music was all consuming. And I'm from Texas. We all played sports. So I was like, well, I could do this.
We might have to put that video up if we can on our Double J website. It is worth a look, or on the Facebook page. It's fantastic. I was very impressed, I must say.
Thank you.
We do need to get out of here, but I'm going to play a track that is appropriate for you right now because you are deeply jet lagged. You arrived in the country yesterday. And this track, Huey Newton, deals with those sort of issues. Do you want to talk us through that before we play it?
Yeah. Okay. Well, the title of this song I took from an Ambien experience I had, which Ambien is a sleeping pill, doctor prescribed, and I took it to try and get over some jet lag because I was playing in Helsinki at a festival and I had little time to catch up on sleep. Blah blah blah. Took the Ambien, didn't fall asleep. Instead, hallucinated that Huey Newton was in my hotel room and that we were bonding and we really understood each other. And I made a promise to him in that moment that I would write him into a song.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, we should listen to it right now. You've got dates. You're playing Thursday the 22nd in Melbourne at Howler, Friday the 23rd of May at Howler in Melbourne again, and Saturday as well. Looks like sold out, all sold out. Congratulations. And
Thank
Sydney
you.
tickets are still available Sunday the 25th of May at the Sydney Opera House. It will be wonderful. Annie Clark, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're on Double J. This is Huey Newton.